Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now if you purchase an i9 14900K then it doesn't come with a stock cooler, and it's a good job because you need something pretty beefy like this ASUS liquid cooler here to keep it at reasonable temperatures. If you buy something on the 1700 platform that's slightly lower end, let's say for example a Celeron, then you will get a stock cooler included and it will look like this. Can you see where we're going with this video? Now I've been using the i9 for a few days, not the usual sort of thing I cover on this channel, but I've been running a few different tests and I thought wouldn't it be quite funny to see how well this CPU performs when using Intel's bundled stock cooler for the Celeron G6900. Just how bad will the i9 experience be? Well, I have a few results for you today. This video isn't going to be very long because I didn't want to put the i9 through too much trauma, but let's get into it and talk about a few of the details. It is getting hot in here. Now we have a few options with this motherboard, like removing all CPU limits and letting it run wild. We'll be leaving it at the stock Intel limits today though. With the aforementioned ASUS liquid cooler and these limits in place, the i9 hit a max temperature of 79 degrees. We're good for up to 100 degrees before any throttling occurs. The little Celeron cooler, however, oh boy, this spins up like a jet engine and our 14900K hits 100 degrees in a matter of seconds. So then, how does this affect performance? Well, in Cinebench R23 we're getting over 38,000 points with our ASUS cooler, and the chip sits at over 5 GHz during this run as expected. With the Celeron cooler in place we get this lovely little red light, which I'm assuming represents some sort of cry for help, as the i9 slowly turns back into sand. During our Cinebench run the frequency got lower and lower, dropping below 4 GHz pretty quickly. This impacted the score by almost 10,000 points. Interestingly, the single core score remained very similar, so that's something. What does this mean for real-world performance then? Well, in DaVinci Resolve, my editing program of choice, the i9 completed a custom 1080p 60fps render in 1 minute and 19 seconds. Very fast indeed. Again, the Celeron cooler caused some serious throttling as rendering is a very intensive process, but the speed of the render was still pretty impressive, coming in at 1 minute and 38 seconds. Actually using DaVinci Resolve did feel a little more sluggish though, which I wasn't expecting. Almost as if the constant variations in clock speed caused little stutters here and there with the project playback. I then tried Cyberpunk 2077 at 720p, only because the best GPU I currently own is a 4060 Ti. It's a very capable card, don't get me wrong, but it quickly became the limiting factor during my gameplay test, even when the i9 was clocking down to around 4.5 GHz as opposed to 5.7. This meant that at 1080p and above, the results would have been very similar. So to highlight the difference a little more between the two performance scenarios, I used a lower resolution to ensure that the CPU would be more of a limitation. This is more of a synthetic benchmark really as opposed to a real world one, but I think it's fitting given that what we're trying to emphasize here. As you can see, our average frame rate dropped from 146 to 124, and our percentile lows were impacted by the throttling i9 as well. As I said before though, I saw no real difference at higher resolution, so if you have a stock cooler from an old CPU and want to use that new i9 of yours for gaming while waiting for a new cooler to arrive, you can. You shouldn't, but I mean, you can. And if you're more concerned with CPU heavy scenarios, which I can imagine you are if you're opting for an i9 in the first place, it's probably an even worse idea. But there we go, this was a bit of a silly video while I wait for some more components to arrive, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless, and this is certainly something I was wanting to test out for a few days. Certainly satisfied my curiosity, to say the least. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like, leave a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already and you want to, of course, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next video.